My name is Ethan Miller. I'm 24. I'm an auto mechanic, and contrary to every dumb TV show, I don't stand elbow deep in grease. Order isn't just a character trait, it's a safety requirement. I live in an old house on the edge of Maplewood. It's big, empty, and such a gas guzzler that I sometimes think it'd be cheaper to burn $100 bills in the fireplace, but it's an inheritance. My real world is the garage out back. There, under the warm glow of the lamps, he stands, a 1972 VW Beetle, disassembled, temperamental, but mine. That is my evening meditation. On that late November night, the weather was typical for the Midwest. The rain was whipping horizontally. I was just about to take off the valve cover when a knock came at the garage's side door, persistent but with pauses, as if the person was debating whether they should bother a lunatic who sits in his garage at 10 at night. I pulled off my gloves and opened the door. The wind instantly slapped a handful of drops into my face. Standing on the threshold was a girl. The first thing I noticed was the contrast. An expensive, waxed Barber jacket, clearly not meant for a heavy rain hike, and white sneakers completely ruined by mud. Wet hair plastered to her cheeks, her makeup slightly smeared, but there was no fear in her eyes. There was fury. "If you're a lunatic," she said instead of a greeting, her teeth chattering, "I'm warning you. I've had a really bad day and I bite." I smiled despite myself. Lunatics usually don't offer towels, but I'll make an exception. Come inside before you leave a puddle on the floor. She stepped in and looked around. I saw her shivering. "I'm Ethan," I said, tossing her a clean polishing rag I kept for the dashboard. "Skylar. My phone's dead. The rideshare driver turned out to be a creep, and I refused to listen to his vulgar jokes. He kicked me out at the gas station." "And how did you find your way here? The station is 2 miles away." "She followed the light," she said, toweling off her hair. I got a closer look at her face for the first time. High cheekbones, a stubborn chin, and eyes the color of aged whiskey. She was beautiful, in that complex, pedigreed way that you can't hide even under a layer of rainwater. I walked over to the coffee maker on the workbench. "Coffee?" I offered. "It's from a pod, no Starbucks barista class, but it's hot." "I'd kill for a coffee," she confessed. I grabbed a package of Loft House cookies, simple butter cookies I bought for tea. I put everything on my work table, pushing the wiring diagram aside. She wrapped both hands around the mug to warm her fingers. Her nails were well kept, but her skin was now red from the cold. "Do you live here?" she asked, nodding toward the Beetle. "Or is he your patient?" He's a comatose family member. I'm restoring him." "He looks sad." "He's not sad, he's expectant. Those are different things." She looked at me, and a spark of interest flashed in her eyes. Not toward a rescuer, but a man. "You're a weird mechanic, Ethan. You have clean hands, good coffee, and you talk about cars like they're people. And you're a weird passenger. You walk in the rain just to avoid listening to idiots? That deserves respect." We talked for an hour and a half while her phone charged. She ate half a package of cookies, laughing at how they crumbled on her expensive jacket. It turned out she had a wonderful, slightly sarcastic sense of humor. When the cab arrived, I didn't want her to leave. "Thanks for the coffee, and for not being a lunatic," she said at the door. "Stop by again, even if the driver's an idiot again." "Maybe I'll stop by even if the driver is normal," she countered, disappearing into the darkness of the taxi. She returned a week later. This time, she brought fresh croissants from a good bakery. "For the coffee," she explained. "The Loft House ones were too dry." That's how our evenings began. She was studying business in Boston, her father's will, but hated it. She brought her laptop to write papers, but mostly we just talked or shared a comfortable silence. The idyll ended with the appearance of a black Cadillac. Richard Vance, her father, was a man like a calculator. He didn't yell, he didn't threaten, he simply laid the facts on the table like a hand of cards. We stood in the yard, Skylar, me, and him. "You need to finish your degree, Skylar," he said, looking at her like a failed financial report. "You're spending time in a garage instead of a library." "I don't want to run your firm, Dad. I want to open a restoration shop," Vance scoffed. "Without a degree? Without knowledge? With this boy's money?" He nodded toward me. "He might be a nice guy, but you don't build businesses on romance." He proposed a deal, a tough business deal. You go back to New York, you finish your degree, you graduate with honors. If you do that, I'll give you the seed capital for your own business. If not, you come back to my firm as a junior manager, and no garages until you have that diploma. Skylar looked at me. I nodded. "He's right, Skylar. You need independence, and the degree is your shield." "I'll go," she told her father, "but I will be back." For 3 months, we lived on the phone. Texts, photos of notes, my photos of disassembled engines. "I miss your coffee," she wrote. "And I miss someone criticizing my cookies," I replied. But doubts gnawed at me. New York, her father's money, a new life. Why would she return to Maplewood, to a mechanic still struggling with a rusty Beetle? 3 months passed. Saturday. I was trying to adjust the carburetor, but the old diaphragm was leaking air. It was hopeless. I pulled off my gloves, threw them on the bench, and then I heard an engine, a cab. Skylar stepped out of the car. In one hand, a rolled-up diploma, and the other a small, oiled box. "Pass?" I asked, my heart skipping a beat. "With honors," she smiled. "Today we celebrate. Dad made the transfer. I'm free, Ethan." She stepped closer and placed the box in my hands. "I found this on a VW Veterans Forum in Texas. An old guy needed help digitizing his archives, and he had, well, look." I opened the box. An original Solex repair kit. Exactly the one you couldn't find for any amount of money because they simply didn't exist anymore. "You spent time with an old man for a spare part?" "I invested time so your car's heart could beat again," she corrected, blushing. "This isn't a $5 gift, it's a trade. My time for your dream." We assembled the part together. I tightened the last screw, wiped my hands, and sat behind the wheel. I turned the key. The engine coughed, then evened out and purred. Deeply, confidently, rhythmically. Skylar laughed and rested her head on my shoulder. "Sounds like music," she said. "No, Sky," I hugged her without turning off the engine. "It sounds like reality. This Beetle was my dream, my therapy, my excuse not to suffocate in silence. And you just turned that one dream into a fact." I turned off the ignition, and the engine's purr faded. "Now," I turned to her, "let's go inside the house. You have your diploma. You have seed capital from your dad. You need to develop your own project. I might not know antiques, but I understand construction, what works and what doesn't." I extended my hand. One dream, the Beetle, is now a reality. Now we need to take care of your ideas. We'll sit down, I'll make a normal coffee, we'll develop your project. I'll help where I can. This is our new blueprint. Skylar looked into my eyes, and they flashed with the same determined fire I first saw when she stood soaked in the rain. "Then, Ethan, let's start with the budget and the location search. No compromises." She squeezed my hand tightly and kissed me softly on the cheek. We left the garage. The rain had stopped, leaving behind only a steady, quiet sound that felt like peace. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of something new. Now I knew for sure, sometimes old things, just like complicated relationships, are worth fixing. The key is finding the right part and having the patience to wait for it.